Hey guys, so I know you've seen this question going around: is retro gaming pointless or useless? The question was originally posed by Smash JT. There's a link down in the description for the original video. And then also, my friends over at Do You Nerd and Gaming Off the Grid have covered this topic as well. And there's more links for those videos. I think they did a really great job putting out some great points, answering the question. But I thought, since Tom from Do You Nerd and I have been discussing this a lot lately, why not throw in a couple thoughts of my own? So, first, I have, why are you collecting? Now, to quote Tom, who quoted Discart, collect what you love, right? If you're not collecting because you love the thing, if you're trying to collect for, like you're gonna sell them off someday, it might be pointless because we never know exactly how much these things are going to be worth monetarily. Now, you can see their worth when it comes to nostalgia and to sentimental value for sure, but monetarily that ebbs and flows all the time. So how will you ever know really how much that thing is going to be worth? So then that way it could be pointless. But if you're collecting because you love the item and you are doing it to make memories, then it's priceless. You know. The second thing I wanted to talk about was, how are you collecting? If you are only collecting via online services like eBay, I think it might be a little bit pointless. And the reason for that is, I think that the retro gaming community is a community and it exists as a whole. So I think that when you are collecting, the how matters a lot. Like, you need to get out and you need to go to, yard sales or thrift stores or even overpriced game stores, because even there you're going to find people that have the same kind of ideas about retro gaming as you. So the how really matters a lot on how you're collecting these games. One way that I collect a lot of my games, as you guys have seen, is I write music for other people, and so I gain a friendship as well as gaining some games. So I think the community aspect of retro gaming is really important as well. And then the last main positive point I wanted to hit on was, with whom are you sharing it? I know it sounds really, very highfalutin with using whom, but it's important that you are sharing your retro game collection. If you are collecting all these games and they sit in a room or a closet or a tub and they never get touched, and you just have them because you just wanted to say you had them, then that's pointless or useless. But if you are getting together even once a year and taking out a big portion of those games and just letting people go through them and seeing, the joy on their faces. Tom and Lacey, they used to live out in Missouri. We'd hang out all the time, and going into that game room, it's just pure joy for whoever goes in, and it's pure joy for them as well. I think they touched on this in their video, but watching people go through and saying like, oh, I always wanted to play this game as a kid and I never had the chance, or hey, I played this game all the time, and just bringing back a lot of memories. So it can be a room that you store things in, or it can be a room of excitement and a space that is important to a lot of people. In anthropology, there is a study where they go to a place and they figure out what the place was used for. What is the purpose of that space? And I believe that an anthropologist could look at a game room and see it as a place of gathering and a place of friendship and a place where, great memories are made. So even anthropologists, I can't talk. Even anthropologists would agree with me that retro game collecting is not pointless. Now, I watched a lot of people's videos who have been discussing this, and there's two big things that they bring up that are on the negative side that I'd like to, curtail. The first is, it takes up so much space. And granted, the original NES is pretty bulky, but so is my Xbox One. So, kind of like that, going back and forth. But when Tom and I were talking about this, he said, what else takes up a lot of space? All those paintings in the Louvre. And there are digital copies of those paintings all over the internet. We can look at them all day and study them, but we can zoom in to the degree that you can't see in when you're in person with the painting. But we still keep that building open because it's important to preserve the history of the art. And video games are an art form. They are a combination of art forms as well, visual and audio. Even the programming side, if you were a programmer, seeing how these older games were put together from a coding perspective is amazing. And knowing that, a blank Word document now takes up more memory than Super Mario Brothers on the NES did. That's amazing. That's a really cool thing. So even though they might take up some space, that space is being utilized in a way that is not wasted. So I don't believe that's a negative at all. And the other thing that people say that's a negative is the price points, that these things are getting too expensive at this time. And you know what? That's okay, because retro game collecting, it's not a sprint. You don't have to have every game by the end of the year. If you only have 20 games right now, that's okay. If next year you pick up 5 more, great. But the point is that you are experiencing these. One of the reasons that I collect my retro games is because I want the physical cartridges so that my daughter can play them with me. The other day I recently picked up Snowboard Kids on Nintendo 64, and I put it in, and my daughter picked up the controller and she played on a time trial. She's only 3 years old, and halfway down the mountain where she was just running into things, but she was still going down the mountain, she said, "Dad, this game's not so hard." And then that's like the moment that I want with retro gaming, is times where my daughter can be excited about playing a game, because she was really happy to keep playing it because it wasn't a hard game. But also the physical nature of this right here. Boom, the visceral experience of putting a cartridge in a machine, taking them out, putting them in, not blowing in them, because you're not supposed to blow in them, but that experience is more rewarding than flipping on a digital device and scrolling through 700 games. There are thousands upon thousands of things to watch on Netflix, but you always watch The Office, right? So it doesn't matter how much stuff there is when it's in a digital format, but when you have a physical copy of something, you get a much better experience, being able to have a tactile experience, an auditory experience with the games going in and out, and your visual experience with the art. These are all the ways that people learn, is visual, tactile, kinesthetic, auditory. And putting a game in a cartridge is essentially a way of learning about the game. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I think it's really important that you have these experiences. So, again, is retro game collecting pointless? No, it's not pointless, as long as you are doing something that you love. Thanks for hanging out, guys.